Thank you to our chapel team for all the work that they're doing in the hubs. I know the feedback that we've had is it's working really well, and it will be good to just make sure you say thank you to them afterwards as well. We've just come from a period where we celebrated Lent and then Easter. Lent is the 40 days before Easter, and Easter is the period where Jesus eventually dies on the cross. It would be a very sad story if it ended at that point, but it doesn't. Not only did Jesus eventually die on the cross, the whole Easter story is really important to Christians because Jesus rose again. Jesus had a group of followers, the disciples, and they had come into a place called Jerusalem to cheers and loads of people really excited to see them. But there were some people, some of the religious leaders, who were very jealous and they did not want the attention that Jesus was getting. These leaders eventually were the ones that led to Jesus being nailed on the cross. I don't know about you, but I think I would have been pretty scared if I was one of Jesus's followers when all of this was taking place. Not only would I have been scared at the time, but afterwards when Jesus came back from the dead, that's the really exciting time. Not so much scary, but terribly exciting, because all of the people who were against Jesus, all of the people who had wished for him to be killed, now they would have been embarrassed because Jesus, just as he had promised, had now come back from the dead. And not only were these people seeing that Jesus had actually done what he'd said he would do, but he was showing his power, the power of coming back from the dead. In the reading that we've just had, this is now the period after Jesus had come back from the dead and he had started spending time with his disciples. So his followers, some of them didn't believe that Jesus had come back from the dead. And we hear of a story of a disciple called Thomas, who not only didn't believe it, but he said, I will only believe that Jesus has come back from the dead if I see the wounds in his hands and on his feet. And Jesus was able to show all of this to Thomas. And by seeing this, Thomas was able to believe. So not only was Thomas now a believer because he had seen it, all the other disciples were spending time with Jesus and they were really happy because they were going to various places in the region and talking about God's special message. And that special message is about love. Love for one another and love for people around them. And it's not just loving your friends, it's loving even the people who were not really people you'd mix with at all. Jesus was walking with his disciples, his special followers, and he was going towards a place called Bethany. Just before he got to Bethany, he explained to his followers that his Father in heaven had given him a special job to do, and that job was to spread this message of love. Jesus had done that. Some people had not wanted to listen to that message, and it had ended up in the events that we heard from Easter. But now Jesus was about to go up to heaven, and his message to his disciples was, I want you to keep spreading that good news message of love so that everyone will hear that message and end up also falling in love with each other. After he'd said this to his people, Jesus then went up into heaven. For us as a school, we are talking about this positive message of love for one another. One of the things that I mentioned from last term was the 40-hour famine. And I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about this now. I was chatting to my wife and she wasn't too keen on us starting the 40-hour famine.